Have you noticed that the American investment world seems to be getting less and less optimistic about real estate? Even Realtor.com, a major Wall Street-backed real estate portal, has issued a warning. While home prices are rising, the actual wealth of many homeowners is rapidly shrinking. Many people are still very bullish on real estate, that buying a home is the best hedge against inflation and the most reliable long-term store of value. But a growing number of people are arguing that continuing to invest in real estate will only make you poorer. Are we about to enter an era where rising home prices no longer translate to increased wealth? And if so, how should we rethink the real estate we currently own? Nobody wants to get poorer as their home's price goes up. Before we start, please give this video a like. Your support is my biggest motivation to keep creating content. Honestly, it's difficult for people to wrap their heads around a counterintuitive idea like, the more house prices rise, the poorer you get. After all, since the 2008 housing collapse, plenty of people have made their fortunes in real estate. But this special report from Wall Street isn't as complicated as it seems. If you have a basic understanding that the economy moves in cycles, and real estate is no exception, then you know that what goes up must come down. All we have to do is look at history to find the answer. Back in the 1980s, there was a term called equity erosion, used to describe this strange real estate phenomenon. It means that while the nominal value of your home is indeed rising on paper, inflation is rising even faster. This causes the real value of your property to shrink. For example, in 1980, home prices rose by about 6%, which sounds pretty good. The problem was that inflation that year was over 13%. So if you subtract the 6% rise in home prices from the 13% inflation rate, you're left with a 7% gap. This means that home buyers not only worked for a year for nothing, but their wealth actually shrank by 7%. So Wall Street isn't lying to us. In fact, the situation back then was even worse. To combat inflation, the Federal Reserve hiked interest rates so high that mortgages at one point surpassed an unimaginable 18%. Luckily, economic cycles turn. After 3 hard years, the situation began to improve in 1983. But the question is today's housing predicament the same as the 1980s? Or are we facing new, even worse challenges that have never been seen before? Many people are skeptical of analyses from Wall Street, thinking they're just setting a trap to fleece retail investors. But this time, they're not telling you to chase the market and buy, buy, buy. They're telling you to be careful. In fact, many of you have already identified the 3 great mountains that future home buyers will have to climb. Let's share them here and see if they match your own experience with the housing market. The first mountain, insurance. A viewer left a comment that really resonated with many. They've never filed a single claim, but this year their insurance premium doubled from $910 to $1,800. A friend from Texas added that theirs tripled, which is even more terrifying. But that's not even the worst of it. The most expensive home insurance in America isn't in California or Florida. A friend who consulted with me lives in Nebraska, Warren Buffett's home state. You'd think that being in the Midwest, the cost of living would be lower. But the insurance in Nebraska is more expensive than in California's wildfire zones or Florida's hurricane zones. Why? It has to do with building codes. States in Tornado Alley, like Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, have strict structural requirements to withstand high winds, which drives up costs. National insurance companies have consolidated, and they now spread their risk across the country. This means that if you're a responsible homeowner in a low-risk area, your premiums are being raised to subsidize the claims in high disaster areas. It may not seem fair, but at least insurance is something you can choose. You can decide how big of a mountain you're willing to carry. But the next 2 mountains are ones you can never escape once you buy a home. The second mountain, property taxes. As Benjamin Franklin famously said, in this world, nothing is certain except death and taxes. And property tax is one of the cleverest, most inescapable inventions in human history, a tax you pay for life, right up until death. To understand your fate, you need to understand the U.S. tax structure. There are 3 layers: federal, state, and local. Property tax is a local tax, and it's one of the most important sources of funding for local governments, especially in states that don't have a state income tax, like Texas. To attract people, Texas forgoes a state income tax. But to pay for its development, it has to make up the difference somewhere else, through property taxes. As a result, while home prices in Texas might seem cheap, its property tax rates are among the highest in the nation. Unlike California, where property taxes are based on the purchase price, Texas reassesses property values based on the current market. So when home prices soar in Texas, property taxes are guaranteed to soar right along with them. It's a system designed to lure you in and then make you pay for life. The third mountain, maintenance. This is the mountain that homeowners carry on their own backs. At the beginning of the year, when tariffs were announced, I discussed the issue with a contractor on one of my sites. He advised that anyone with an aging home should replace what they need to as soon as possible, because prices would only go up. At the time, some viewers argued that Trump himself said the costs would be absorbed by the businesses, not the consumers. But if you've ever run a business, even a small taco stand on the street, you know that when your costs go up, you have two choices: absorb the cost and make less profit, or pass the cost on to your customers. Guess which one every business chooses? The costs are always passed on to you. For example, a typical roof needs to be replaced every 15 to 30 years. The quotes I'm getting this year are 20% higher than last year, not just because of materials, but because of a severe labor shortage. The same goes for seasonal equipment like air conditioners. A viewer took my advice and replaced their old AC in the spring, saving thousands of dollars. The wholesale price for HVAC units is already up 8-10 yen. By the time it gets to the consumer, the price increase will be much higher. So, under the weight of these three mountains, what new challenges do young people and retirees face in the housing market? A young viewer left a comment saying they were planning to buy a house and were waiting for interest rates to drop. But if rates don't fall below 5.5% within the next 2 years, the burden of homeownership will be too heavy. What advice is there for young people who are on the fence about buying? During my trip to the East Coast, I spoke with many young people from 90s, 95s, and 2000s babies. What I found is that most of them rely on their parents for help to buy a home. On the surface, it looks like a competition among young people to earn money, support a family, and buy a house. But in reality, it's a competition among their parents, the 60s, 70s, and 80s generations, who are continuing to compete for their children. As one viewer put it, real estate is no longer a symbol of a young person's hard work. Because no matter how hard you work in a major US city, it's almost impossible to make it on your own. This is the reality for graduates from even top universities like Columbia and NYU. As a result, these younger generations are losing the faith in real estate that their parents had. It's like a relationship. If you don't believe in love, you're not really in a relationship. Real estate has become a kind of faith. If you believe in it, you rush towards it. If you don't, you ignore it. If 2 generations lose this faith, what will the real estate market look like in 10 or 20 years? My advice to young people is to ask yourself what kind of wealth you truly value: the financial ownership of space or the financial ownership of your time. Which one makes you feel like your life has more value? A house can be an accessory you acquire later in life when you've accumulated enough wealth. It doesn't have to be the end goal. Now for a question from an older viewer. I'm old-fashioned and have wanted to upgrade my home for a long time, but the market is unfriendly. I've seen many people speculating on crypto, but it seems riskier than stocks. What should I do? For those who are already dollar cost averaging into index funds like the S&P 500, my advice is to stay the course. Compared to speculating on crypto, it's a much more stable way to grow your wealth and sleep at night. I am not the kind of person who preaches about getting rich overnight. I can't, because I can't even do it myself. But after talking to so many young people who are into crypto, I've started to reflect. Perhaps for them, in this day and age, it feels like the only way to get ahead. A single bull run in crypto could be worth 10 years of mortgage payments. You can't blame them for thinking that way. It's not their fault, It's that society hasn't provided them with a healthy, normal investment environment. When there's no clear path upward, people take risks. My only advice is to treat crypto as a small supplemental part of your portfolio, not the main course. As for retirees, when they ask me about crypto, my advice is simple: don't touch it. Your priority is stability. The defining characteristic of the crypto world is instability. If you have a small home, a stable pension, and a decent quality of life, you are already better off than 80 to 90% of the population. I agree with Realtor.com's analysis, but I don't think every housing market in the US will see wealth erosion. Real estate is hyperlocal, but it's undeniable that the era of easy money in real estate is over. You can no longer just buy a house and expect to get rich effortlessly. You shouldn't be tied to this one asset class. I had some reservations about making this episode because I know many real estate agents are loyal viewers. But as one friend commented, they appreciate the objective professional perspective. To be honest, this isn't due to any noble quality of mine. It's because I don't sell houses. I have no conflict of interest. As the saying goes, if you don't touch the cake, you don't get frosting on your hands. I don't want my friends in the real estate industry to feel offended. In fact, I hope everyone in every part of the industry does well, but you need to broaden your horizons. When I first started working in 2008, during the housing collapse, many of my American colleagues in architecture lost their jobs because they only specialized in residential projects. They had all their eggs in one basket. Because my work also involved industrial development, like data centers, which was a new field back then, I was able to survive by diversifying. The lesson is that no industry, not even residential real estate, is an evergreen tree. If you're finding it hard to buy or sell a home, or if being a landlord is more stressful than it used to be, it might be time to think about other investment channels. No one will refuse an opportunity to broaden their path, because no one can guarantee that their current path will always be smooth. I am incredibly grateful for all of you who share your local insights in the comments. It helps all of us break out of our information cocoons and piece together a more objective view of the market. I don't want to miss any opportunity to learn from you. Please continue to share your thoughts on the future of US real estate. Will we ever return to the healthy market environment we had before 2019? Thank you for your likes and subscriptions. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next exciting share.